Hi friends, want to make a quick video on my workflow for recording audiobooks, or rather recording myself reading books and then distributing them to my kids' phones to use as bedtime stories or audiobooks if they so choose to, or whenever they do. I'll have 5 little sections of the video. First, what and why. What, I already said. Second, I'll show the setup of the actual hardware that I use. Then an example of actually reading and recording. Then show the software settings and file preparation. And then lastly, the distribution, how I set it up to just get pushed to my kids' phones magically without any extra effort. So, why would I even do that? It started out from reading bedtime stories to my small daughter. When she was 4.5 or 5, I wanted to move on from short fairy tales to long fairy tales, namely the Earthsea series by Ursula Le Guin. That was my own favorite as I was growing up, and I wanted to share that with my daughter. The trouble with bedtime stories is that you fall asleep to the story, and then I would need to backtrack the following night because some of the bits that I had read when I stopped, she was already asleep. So to solve that, I started recording it as a voice memo on my phone and then just reading a full chapter every night. And then on the following day, she could catch up on the story. And next time when we were reading, it would just continue from the following chapter. And then the added benefit of that is that now, 10 years later, my niece is able to listen to the same recordings and not only experience the stories as well, but also get tiny artifacts of the times when my daughter would chime in and ask a question, or the cat would come and meow or something. So it's a little bit more personal than just a professional audiobook. So this is why. And in the longer term, when I eventually die, my kids will have access to these longer fairy tales, bigger fairy tales that I enjoy as an adult. Maybe by that time they will also get into it and enjoy it, and get to hear me mispronounce a bunch of things and stumble through some of the parts. So that's another thing. As far as the time capsule aspect of it, in the end of the chapter, I started adding a little blurb of what has been going on in our lives. So when you get to the end of the chapter, I just say, that's the end of the chapter. To continue with the story, skip to the next one now, or something along these lines. And then go on and say that, oh, we went on a hike and we saw a mushroom, or whatever else might be the case. So this way, a decade later or 2 decades later, when someone might be listening to the recording, they will have this historical diary type artifact too. So that will, I think that might be pretty cool too. Okay, moving on to the actual demonstration of the setup. Right, the setup is pretty basic. Computer with Audacity, a microphone. Don't really need a microphone, but it makes for a more consistent sound. I got this one for about $50. There is one on Craigslist right now for $35 nearby. I'll also link what microphone it is. It's actually also a recorder, so it can just record onto an SD card, so it is more versatile. And the book is on a book stand so that when I'm sitting, I can face it instead of looking down. And the book stand is bestbookstand.com. But there are many others that would work just the same way. So here's the workflow. There's the book, the microphone, and Audacity open. Hit R to start recording, and then I'll start reading. Kaladin lingered, waving for his men to get out of the way. Once they were all free, he glanced back at the bridge, which bristled with arrows. Not a single man down. Perfect. Because I misspoke. Not a single man done. Cool. Select, delete, and carry on. Not a single man down. A miracle. He turned to run. Lost the spot. So again, select, delete, and continue. Find the spot first. Here. And then R to continue. He turned to run. Someone stumbled to his feet on the other side of the bridge. Dunny. The youthful bridgeman had a white and green fletched arrow sprouting from his shoulder. His eyes were wide, dazed. So that's basically how it goes. Right, moving on to the hardware I use and software. The recorder I have is Zoom H1N. I got mine on Facebook Marketplace for I think $50. And then I got a microphone windscreen, looks like a year and a half ago now. For it, I'm using this foam one to reduce the sensitivity to my breathing, and that makes it easier, makes the sound more consistent. For tagging, I use MusicBrainz, and for actual recording, Audacity, which are both free. Now, showing an example of actual software, and then also the settings on after the raw recording. As I mentioned, usually in the end, I add a little blurb. Describing what's going on apart from the story. So that's the end of the chapter. Let's get those men ready for moving. There we go. So that's the end of the chapter. So if you want to continue with the story, skip ahead to the next one now. Outside of the book, today I'm making a video of how I make these recordings, so that I can share it with my friends and family, so they can also record if they so choose. Okay, I'll probably read another chapter tonight after this, so I'll probably talk to you later today. Okay, love you, bye, talk to you later. All right, here we go. So that's the end of this shorter chapter. Now there are a couple of things. Software, yes. Let's go back to the software. In the software, the bits that are relevant is, in addition to Audacity, there's also an ACX plugin. And for that, does it have a link to it somewhere here? No. ACX plugin. It can be downloaded from here, and then the instructions are here as well, I think, how to install it. In any case, after it's downloaded. It's just available in here in the Analyze menu. And what I use that for is to check the volume as well as the noise level and peak level for the whole file. Usually it is too noisy and too quiet. So Command A to select all, and then do ACX check. Peaks are too tall, too quiet, and then, but noise floor is actually, noise is okay. But probably once once I change the volume of the thing, of the whole track, the noise is also going to get louder. So for the noise, usually in the end of my recording, I just record a few seconds of ambient noise like this. And then use this section. If you don't record it, you can also select one of the quiet spots within the recording and then use that. But it's having a few seconds is supposedly making it more accurate. Going to Effects, Noise Removal, and then Noise Reduction. And with that chunk of ambient sound selected, you can get the noise profile. Now that's done. Now this can be deleted. And now when I select the whole track, I will be able to reduce noise. But first, let's make it a little bit louder overall and quieter at the peaks using the limiter. I'm not sure if these settings are defaults or if I got them from the internet somewhere or tweaked a little bit, but they work. They work fine. If the check says that it's still too quiet, okay, peak level is fine now, but it's still too quiet, then just rerun it again, and then you will see how the wave here gets taller and everything gets a little bit louder.
I was wrong about you, Mawash said suddenly.
So select all again and analyze again. Aha, still too quiet, but now it is too noisy, so we will want to reduce the noise as well. But let's make it loud enough first. There we go, and now it's too noisy, so now we go to noise reduction. Same with these settings. I think these might be the default settings, but maybe I found them on the internet somewhere. And here you will see this, the quiet parts get skinnier, maybe not. But after running that, now peak level, loudness, and noise are fine. So now at that point, I save it. Well, actually, I usually save in the beginning when I start recording. This way, now I wouldn't have to type it up. But it was 53 and Donnie. That was the name of the chapter. After saving the project, I export the audio to MP3. So it would be a smaller file size. Then it's a little under 100 megabytes usually for about per hour. So this is likely going to be, how long is it? Let's see, 20 minutes. So this will probably be around 35 megabytes. Export audio. You can edit metadata here as well. You don't have to, because we can do it in MusicBrainz. But here, the nice thing here is that you can save like a template. Oh, not save, and then load it in. So it's a little bit quicker. Donnie was the chapter title, and the track number is going to be 59. I'll explain that in a moment as well. Basically, you just want to make sure that the the tracks are sequential, and then they will play nicely with. Well, they'll play nicely with any player that you end up using to actually play them back. All right, the file is saved. Then I drag it into MusicBrainz, just to confirm, like double check basically that the tag went correctly and that the track number also ended up correct. And the other thing that Audacity doesn't do, it doesn't embed album artwork immediately. And in MusicBrainz, you can just drag it onto that icon, and then Command S will save it. And now there's the MP3 file, 32 megabytes. And
Chapter 53, Dunny.
there we go. There it is. Right. Now, last but not least, how do I actually deliver it to the kids or distribute to other friends and family? There might be better ways, but the way that I found that is easy enough for me is through Patreon. A couple of things that are useful in Patreon: you can set up an account and put things up for free, and you can set up distribution through RSS. They also have distribution through Spotify or Apple Podcasts, but I'm not sure if the copyright laws would allow doing that. I reached out actually for Stormlight Archives. I reached out to the publisher, I think. Yeah, to the publisher, asking if it would be okay to do that and distribute it as a podcast for my kids, but haven't heard back. However, without actually connecting it to the platforms directly through RSS, only people that know the URL can actually subscribe to it. So let me add a new the next chapter that we just saved. I usually copy the previous. Usually I have it actually in a separate tab, so that I have both of them side by side, so that I can copy things. So I have a new file. Usually copy the beginning of the chapter here, 53 Dunny, and then write a little blurb for audio, drag in the file, it will upload, and write a little blurb. So something like that. And then once it's uploaded, you can play it to double check that it works.
Chapter 53, Dunny.
It works. And then it recognized right away that because it's an audio, it suggests to put it into the podcast. That's the only podcast I have. I will do individual ones for each of the books. And the episode is, last one was 58, so this one will be 59. The reason why they're mismatched with chapters it is because there was a prologue in the beginning, and then there are some interludes between parts of the books that I saved as separate files, so they are separate episodes in the so-called podcast. Season is 1. And collections, I'm not exactly sure what collections do, but I did create a collection for this as well. And now I will, before I publish it actually, let's subscribe to it. I in the podcasts app, I removed it from my subscriptions just to show. And then if I go in the podcast settings, go to the RSS settings, and then copy the link. Back in the podcasts app, you can go follow a show by URL, and a similar UI also on the mobile apps. Just paste in the URL, and there it is. My fancy podcast has gotten added to my podcast app, and it's in the order that we want, starting from the episode 1, from the chapter 1. That is controlled in the details here by podcast type. It can be serial, which means the podcast will update with the most recent episode shown in the end, or episodic would be the most recent one would show up first. So in the case of a book, we want serial. Anyway, back to the podcast app. So it shows, how many episodes does it show? The last one it shows is Highway to the Sun, episode 58. And we just lined up episode 59 to be published as well. So once I publish it, it says it's ready. Let's see, does it play here?
Chapter 53, Dunny.
It plays on Patreon, great. And in here, will it show up right away? There it is. Chapter 53, Dunny, shows up as the latest one. And we can double check it here as well.
Chapter 46.
Whoop, I didn't scroll far enough. There we go.
Chapter 53, Dunny.
Perfect. It's in the podcast app, and it is in the podcast app everywhere that has subscribed through that URL. Once everything is set up like this, it doesn't take me that much longer than just plain reading the chapter to record it. And then once it's recorded, it takes a couple of minutes to get the audio adjusted to be consistent with all the other recordings, and then get it pushed to the devices of my kids. So hopefully that was helpful, and hopefully you will make use of it for the joy and happiness of your loved ones as well. Okay, bye.